I had no self-worth that I was aware of. And I had grown up in a Christian home.
Mm.
So I knew of Jesus. I knew of God and I loved him, but I didn't know him in a way that was able to sustain me. I knew what my parents knew. I knew their understanding of God, right? I never stopped loving Jesus, right? But the fear of God and the
Mm.
reverence of God, I lost. I misplaced, or maybe I never really had it to begin with. I'm not sure. I had the fear of, oh my gosh, Jesus is coming back and we're going to get left behind. And, I had that fear, but that's not, I don't believe that that's the correct reverence that he
Mm.
deserves. Yes, those things are true. I ended up with a cocaine and alcohol addiction just to numb everything, to fit in, to be accepted, to feel joy, or happiness, and now I know that the joy of the Lord is my strength. It doesn't mean life doesn't continue happening and everything's great, because stuff happens, right?
Oh my goodness. Today I am thrilled to welcome Angela Bennett to our podcast. She's coming all the way from Australia. Angela is a transformational coach and is currently pursuing a double diploma in chaplaincy and ministry. She also hosts her own podcast. Woohoo! Powerless to Powerful. Y'all need to go check it out. In addition to her professional pursuits, Angela is a proud mother of 5 adult children and a grandmother of 2 wonderful grandchildren. She calls them grandbabies. Angela, I want to welcome you to our podcast. Welcome. How are you doing? Once again,
I'm
welcome.
I Thank you. I'm so good. I am sorry about the rain out of my control. It's like a full on storm.
I'm glad you're in the house. You're not out there somewhere shopping.
So am I. So am I. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honour to be here. It's always an honour to receive an email or a message going, would you like to come on our show? I'm like, oh wow, God. Sure. If it's you, God, yes, let's go. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
Wow, we are so thrilled and so glad that you willing to share your woo, powerful. Like I told you early on, when I heard your story, I just chills. I had chills in my body because it's so powerful. You went through um, some really personal moments, personal issues, which is always good to share because somebody will be receiving it. I believe somebody will be receiving it. Somebody will be inspired and encouraged, by your story. So I'm gonna be talking less. I promise. I promise. I'm going to be talking less. So I just want to, open up the floor for you to dive into, the part where you share your testimony because it's so powerful. And if you could please, just, walk us through where your story began, even, from your childhood, how you grew up and, how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Cindy, for this opportunity once again. So here's what I've learned.
Mm.
You are not a piece of meat to be used for the pleasure of man,
What a start.
right?
Wow, that's powerful.
This, yeah, this is a journey that I had to learn that is true.
Mm.
because from the ages of 3 to 7, I was molested by a family friend. At 14, I was raped by a friend.
Mm,
And then later on, I ended up in the sex industry. So that's selling my body to make money. I had no self worth that I was aware of. And I had grown up in a Christian home.
mm,
So I knew of Jesus, I knew of God, and I loved him, but I didn't know him in a way that was able to sustain me. I knew what my parents knew, I knew their understanding of God, right? And so all of these things started in my life, started this trajectory that was just disastrous.
mm,
Violated from such a young age and having everything taken from me. And I know that there are so many women and men
mm,
who have experienced the same start to life, or it's happened at some point. And it's it's something that we, for me, my experience was through certain moments, I would hear God, I would feel God, and
mm,
so He would bring me through. Not that I never stopped loving Jesus, right? But the fear of God and the
mm,
reverence of God I lost. I misplaced, or maybe I never really had it to begin with. I'm not sure. I had the fear of, oh my gosh, Jesus is coming back and we're going to get left behind. And, I had that fear, but that's not, I don't, I don't believe that that's the correct reverence that he
mm,
deserves. Yes, those things are true. And he's such a beautiful, loving God, King of all kings, Lord of all lords, name above every name, that he needs to be reverenced and respected and not mocked, because he is not playing with us.
mhm,
This is not a trial run. This is it, right? And he's been so gracious to me to allow me to experience all of these things,
mm,
and even suicidal attempts, because of the crazy that was going on in my mind and because of what had happened to me. The experiences in the sex industry were at times horrific and just such violation. There was this idea of, I'm so empowered. I mean, everyone was taking what they wanted from me anyway, but now I'm saying, yes, I'll sleep with you and you will pay for it. There was that false empowerment,
mm. Wow.
which, yeah,
Wow,
right.
wow, wow.
But it is so destructive. I mean, we know the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and that's what he tried to do my entire life. And I just give God all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise that I'm still standing here today. There was a string of abusive relationships, trying to find love
Mm,
and not even really knowing what love is, not understanding. Like, I couldn't even love myself, let
mm,
alone love someone else in a way that was true, that withstood the storms. It was always an exchange. My life was very transactional. My love was very transactional. What I'd learned is, if I give you this, you'll give me that. If I take this, well, that's okay because you'll get that. So we benefited each other in certain ways. And I think there's an element of that in relationships, but at the end of the day, there's so much more to it than that. The last couple of years have been a beautiful healing journey for me. It's been a journey of solitude and abstinence, is that the right word?
yeah.
Yeah, abstinence, and just really learning God for myself,
Mm,
learning who he is, learning who he says I am.
I
you
love that.
know like, that leaves me speechless, because the world says something completely
That's
different.
right.
And everything that we've been through, the world will form an opinion and a judgment of you. And I lived in so much shame
Mm,
guilt of everything that I'd done. I mean, there was mental illness, there was suicidal attempts, there was abusive relationships. As I said, there was the prostitution. And so there was so much to be shameful of, and the enemy will constantly come at us and throw it in our face
Mhm.
of condemnation and who's going to love you now and how are you ever going to amount to anything, and it's such a lie from the pit of hell. I ended up with a cocaine and alcohol addiction just to numb everything, to fit in, to be accepted, to feel joy, or happiness, and now I know that the joy of the Lord is my strength. It doesn't mean life doesn't continue happening and everything's great, because stuff happens, right? And the joy of the Lord is my strength, and He is my protector, and He's my comforter. All of these, and He's my counselor, all of these things. So you just get to do life differently, and Jesus is our hope. I didn't understand the word hope when I wasn't walking with Jesus. I'm like, there's no like hope for what? I'm struggling to get up in the morning, let alone have hope for what the life is going to bring me, or
Mm.
but then you discover Jesus and you discover His love, and there's forgiveness, and there's freedom, and there's victory.
Ooh. Oh my God, Angela. I wanna let's back up a little bit. My question is, I'm wondering what led you into that lifestyle of prostitution. Um, what led you to that, and what are some of the things that you observed? You talked about you felt empowered, you know,
Mm.
because you felt like you were wanted, right? So what are some of the things that you observed around you? Like, what was the atmosphere like? What, you know, I'm wondering.
Mm. That's
I
a
really want
great
to get into
question.
that world,
Yeah, yeah, let's go there. That's a great question.
which is scary. Yeah.
I've had the honor of meeting some incredibly brilliant women
Mm,
who were involved and caught up in that industry. And society shames women in that industry,
mm,
but the fact is they're real women.
mm.
They're human beings.
My God,
They're someone.
my
They're
God.
someone's mama. They're someone's mum.
Mm,
They're someone's sister. They are human beings who deserve love and respect the way that everyone else does.
mm,
I'll just start by saying that. A lot of those women were just trying to get ahead. I
mm,
met one woman who was going through college and paying for her mum's cancer medical treatment.
mm,
Another woman was such an entrepreneur. She had all of these incredible ideas and needed the money to get started because she was a single mum. Like there's so many different reasons that women find themselves in this situation.
mm,
For me, I had started working in a normal 9 to 5 job. I was 19 years old.
mm,
I'd already had one baby
mm,
from my first serious relationship. When we first met, I was 15, he was 26,
mm,
and we celebrated my 16th birthday together. And then by 17, I was pregnant.
mm,
My parents did not approve, and so I ran away from home and lived with him. There was different nationality and religion in there, so there was a lot of control. I
mm.
wasn't even allowed to use the home phone to call my family or my friends.
Wow.
I wasn't allowed to walk to the corner shop to get a liter of milk in case someone took me. There was so much fear in that relationship, and I'd never experienced anything like it, but I was so conditioned so gradually. But anyway, I escaped one day when he went to work because I just thought I can't do this anymore. I was still 17. My son was born, and my son was 2 weeks old. And I called my mum and I said, "Can you please come and get me? I'm ready to go." And so I left. She came and got me, and I left. And I had postnatal depression,
Mm.
which I didn't know because 30 years ago, they didn't really talk to you about that.
Right.
I was a baby having a baby. I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
what motherhood was. I had no idea of the hormones that came along with it. I just had no idea. And so I was trying to cope with this newborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
My ex was trying to get me back, and I was just a mess.
Mm.
He threatened my life for a long time, and come about 9 months, I just had enough. And I said, look, just take him. I can't do it anymore. And my parents would have gone for custody, but because the father was around, they wouldn't have had a leg to stand on.
Wow.
So he took my son, and I was just messy. And so I moved away and I went into the city and landed my first job in a shoe shop right in the heart of Sydney. And I was working with this woman, and she was gorgeous and stylish and fun. And I was in this really rundown share house trying to make ends meet. She lived in this beautiful home in the eastern suburbs. And I'm like, we do the same job. How do you have so much? How are you doing life so well? And I'm struggling. And eventually she said to me, I'm a prostitute. This
Mm.
is just my cover up. And I'm like, could do that. I've seen Pretty Woman
Right.
with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. I could do that. Man, that movie, I I don't know how many young women thought a similar thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not, they sort of glamorized it.
Right.
Hollywood has glamorized
Right.
prostitution, and I tell you, it's not. It's not glamorous. It's from hell.
Mm.
Like, let's be honest.
Preach.
It's from
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, God says not to sleep with anyone outside your husband and wife,
Mm-hmm.
outside the marital bed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here you are, multiple people a night
Mm.
and being paid for it. Like, it is just such a pit from hell. So I ended up there my first time. Fortunately for me, I had a really lovely gentleman who knew it was my first time. But, I just cried and cried and cried. And
Mm.
like you see it in the movies, they try and they wash themselves
Mm.
so much to wash off the shame and like you feel so dirty.
Mm.
And there's nothing that can wash it off except the blood of
My
Jesus.
God.
And so not all, but a lot of the women in the industry end up with addictions to help cope with giving yourself to multiple strangers, uh, and living that lifestyle. And it's idolatry because we do it for money, and
That's
so
right.
money becomes our idol.
That's right.
That's really dangerous, really, really dangerous. Like, that'll get you thrown into the pit of hell
That's right.
in the eyes of God. And I know that this is harsh,
Mm.
but this is the reality of it. And prostitution is so destructive. There's a piece of your soul, literally, that goes with everyone that you sleep with. Whether you're in prostitution or whether you're just anyone that you are sleeping with, it says it in the Bible, you become one
That's
flesh.
right.
So every time you're sleeping with someone, there's a piece of you that's going to them, and you're getting a piece of them as well.
Mm.
Let's remember that part,
That's
because whatever they're carrying and whoever else they've slept with, you're bringing all of that. You're opening doors and allowing all of that stuff
mm.
into your life. And I truly believe you're opening doors to the enemy, and so you're just going to get so much stuff, so much stuff.
Oh, I just can't imagine. I can imagine, probably those were some dark moments, right? Dark moments in your life. And how did you get out of it?
How did I get out? That's an excellent question. I met a sugar daddy. Actually, I was introduced to him. I mean, I was into the swinger lifestyle. I was just trying to find anything
Mm.
to fulfill me. And I was introduced to someone who was looking for a sugar baby. I would
Mm.
be the sugar baby, he would be the sugar daddy. He actually started to remind me and rebuild me up of, you're an incredible woman, you've
Mm.
got incredible potential. He helped me out a lot.
Mm.
He really did. Like, I just think that he was such a blessing sent from God because I was in such a dark place. Mind you, he had his own issues. He was married and had a gambling addiction. Like he was far from perfect, right?
But God
Let
used him anyways.
God used him. God used him. And then there was another incident where like that ended and I tried to get on my feet again and ended up in a couple of other sugar daddy relationships. But the funny thing is, when God wants your attention,
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Like he'll keep poking, keep poking, keep poking, and then eventually he'll just rip your rug out from underneath you.
that's
You
right.
can't do that anymore. You need this. And I was able to. Um, the last relationship, he actually ended it, and I was saying to like I knew the relationship was coming to an end,
Mm.
and I was just saying to God because I was starting to go back to church. I was starting to spend time with God and really just crave
Mm.
and need God. Like I'm like, God, this isn't working. I know you're calling out to me. I know you're tugging on my heartstrings. I'm ready to live for you. But just give me 6 more months so I can sort this out financially and then I'll leave, right? And he's like, yeah, nah. So
If you enjoy our contents, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest releases. Turn on the notification bell. Have a story to tell? We'd love to hear it. Reach out to us at cindybingham.com or connect with us on Instagram. Now, back to the show.
but that relationship just ended. I think it was the 30th of December. So the night before New Year's Eve. Anyway, that was a couple of years ago. I've had enough money to, like I said, take some time off and do some healing work because I was so broken. I was so broken. And, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I got to the point where I thought, I think I might die from a broken heart.
Mm.
Like
Mm-mm.
my heart was just so shattered.
My God.
And yeah, and since then I've found out that there is actually a broken heart syndrome.
Mm.
And I think the only thing that can heal that broken heart syndrome is Jesus, because counselors and therapists, psychologists, there's a time and a place, but Holy Spirit needs to go in places where humans can't touch. He needs to go in those deep, dark places that he will reveal to you and beautifully, gently walk you through them and be able to heal them. And he's always so gracious, and like I look back on certain moments in my life that were just so painful. And I'm like, Jesus, where were you
Yeah.
when that was happening to me? When I felt so alone and so abandoned,
Yeah.
where were you in that
Mm.
moment?
My God.
And, and he'll show me where he was, you know? Psychologists can't do that.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Can't do that. So I had been building a coaching business for quite some time, and there was no
Mm.
way I could coach anybody through that space and time. Girl, I could barely coach myself. I could barely keep my head above the water, and God was just so gracious and just provided for me throughout that journey. And now I'm back with my coaching business and my podcast, and
Yeah.
I've just accepted being an author in another anthology, which I haven't done any writing for a really long time. God is taking me on this journey of intimacy, identity, intimacy, and inheritance. And we're Holy Spirit and I are writing a course together about
Wow.
this in a book.
I love that.
Yeah, so do I. I'm like, righto, let's go. But I've lived through it, And so without having lived through all of that, like there's been moments where I'm like, God, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get through this moment. And yet he'll guide me through. Yeah, so I've had to walk this journey for him to be able to teach me so
Mm,
we can then write this book and this course together. And it's such a powerful thing because I lost everything.
mm,
I lost everything. And I then learned how to do life, whether I had 5 cents in my bank account or 5 million in my bank account. Not that I ever had 5 million yet, but when I had money,
mm,
I was a different person
mm.
because it brought out everything that was within me. I don't think money changes you. I think it
It reveals.
emphasizes, magnifies
Yeah,
who's in you.
that's right.
Girl, she was so ugly. Like,
Mm.
I was so rude and entitled
Mm,
to people, like waitresses and waiters in
mm,
fine dining restaurants who were serving me. I was so rude. And I caught myself one day and I just thought, God, who have I become?
mm.
What is this ugliness inside of me? But there was so much pain.
Yeah,
There was so much abuse. There was so much that I had blocked out due to trauma that I didn't even remember in my life that had happened. And even to this day, Holy Spirit reveals things to me gradually
yeah,
because I couldn't handle it all at once. He's just done such a work on me.
yeah.
But just learning, I wouldn't leave the house without a pair of red bottom shoes on, without a pair of Louboutin. Like that's how
Woo!
vain I became,
I
right?
want one of those. Just
Well, yeah, they are the most uncomfortable shoes I've ever worn. Okay. I used to get dropped off at the door. I'd sit down at my dining table and then I would get picked up at the door, and that was about it. But
oh,
now I'm like, I don't care because it doesn't make me who I am, whether my
that's
shoes have
right.
red bottom or whether they're $5 thongs from Kmart. Not that I owe a five, I don't own a pair of $5 thongs from Kmart, but like, it just doesn't matter. It,
That's
does,
right. That's right.
it doesn't matter. Like, seriously, at the moment, I'm officially homeless, and I will explain that. I've moved. I've moved interstate, so I lived in Sydney, and I'm now living in Tasmania
Mm,
because I moved to be with my granddaughters, and I don't even have my own home yet. So I'm in this little bedroom in my daughter's home with her family, and I'm just like, God, I don't even care.
that's right. Woo!
All my stuff is in storage. I've been living out of the same suitcase for since May, since the beginning of May, because I can't even get access to all of my clothes. And I'm like, whatever. Like, it just goes to show me, God, that you are the only thing
Mm,
that matters. And throughout this part of my journey, I'm just learning to be grateful for where I am right now and not wishing this moment away because I want my own home and I just can't wait to get there. And look where I used to be. And I'm not caught in the tension of that.
that's right.
I'm just going, God, I'm so grateful for a bed and a roof over my head right now, and for being with my family.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you in America. Like, God, you're just so cool.
Woo!
Whatever.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I love that. Oh my goodness. I love that. Now it's like you setting your eyes on the things of above. You're not setting your eyes on the things of the world anymore, which were kind of like
yeah,
controlling your life, at some point. Ooh,
absolutely, absolutely.
Angela, that's powerful.
When This is what my coach said to me.
Mm,
She said, the cross is the epicenter of
mm.
his will for my life. Return there, sit there, and I'm at the center of his will for my life. And I just said to her, "Can you say that again? I need to write that down. It's in a reminder in my phone every day." And it's just such a beautiful reminder, because when we're out of alignment of the heart of God,
Mm,
life gets really hard. You're striving all the
mm,
time, and things still come, things are still challenging at times. But when He's your first love, when He is the center of your life, when you are in His will and in alignment with that, it all works out. He's got it sorted. He's got you in the palm of His hand. He will never abandon you. He will never leave you. He is like, you're His daughter.
ooh,
You're His son. He's adopted you into His family. You're co-heirs with Christ. Like, come on. He's not going to leave you.
wow. Angela, you talked about you went through a journey of healing. You know,
Mm.
uh, I mean, a journey of healing, right? I mean, what a journey! I want to know, how did you do it? Like, what
Well,
happened?
what
When
happened?
was that time when you told yourself, God, I'm leaving everything behind. I'm giving my life to you.
Mm.
When was that moment?
It was about April, May 2 years ago. I found myself on the bottom of my shower floor again,
Mm,
wanting to end my life. I was 2 bottles of champagne and a bottle of vodka in. I was so intoxicated, and my heart was just hurting so much. And girl, if I could have gotten my hands on a bag of drugs, I don't know what words we're allowed to say. If I could have gotten my hands on a bag of what was my favorite drug at the time,
mm,
I think I probably would have overdosed and not made it through the night.
mm,
But the girl I was with, she was driving, where we'd gone out, and she was driving, and it's just so she wasn't drinking, I was, and she doesn't do drugs, and so there was no way. I didn't know anyone, thank God. And I just see that as God's protection. And she took me home, and my daughter was in the house. She was only 21 at the time, I think, 21. And I was on the floor in the bathroom and just in the shower, and just like I wanted to end it. I was sobbing. I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm in so much pain. And she put me into bed, and she was kind of on suicide watch all night, not knowing if her mum was going to make it through the night. And the next morning, she just said to me, "Mum, I can't do this anymore. You
mm,
broke me. Last night broke me. I can't do this anymore." And I said, "I know, I can't either. I can't do this." So I actually ended up in rehab for
mm,
alcohol and drugs. And that started my journey of healing. God just doing, because I had to surrender. I had to
yeah.
let go. I
Mm,
had to just say, look, clearly I wasn't doing a good job of life.
mm,
Clearly. And God just took me on this journey. Was attending church, and I'd spend every Sunday morning just in tears, on my knees in tears through worship. I couldn't contain it. Like, God was just doing this beautiful, brutal, but beautiful cleansing and healing in my life. And that lasted about 9 months. Each
wow.
week I would go through this brutal this brutal healing. Like, I was literally on the floor in my office or my lounge room, wherever I found my office was at home, is at home. And I just found myself on the floor, like, God, I can't do anything else. I don't know how to do anything. I just cried and cried and
Mm,
cried and worshipped and cried and worshipped and cried and watched sermons. It just filled my soul and my mind with the word of God, with worship, with just lying there going, I don't know what to do anymore. And I was in rehab. Oh, so I did rehab online.
yeah.
So that was 5 days a week. So
Mm,
3 days a week we would have group calls, and 2 days a week I would have one-on-one therapy. So I was doing all of that. Like, we have to do the work.
yeah.
We have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I've had enough. Something needs to change. God, I want what's next. Like, I'm sick and tired of living this mediocre life down here when what you've got for me is
You've
right
called
up
me
here,
for, yes. That's right. That's
right?
that's right.
He didn't call us to live down here.
That's right.
That's not his purpose for us.
That's right.
It's not. And so every like week to a month I would go through this journey, and then I was like, I received this reprieve. It was like, oh, okay, I'm done, right? And have about a week breathing space. And then what I noticed and what I learned was I was like this onion, like in Shrek. I don't know if you've seen Shrek.
Yeah.
I was like this onion that kept having the layers peeled back.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, this is really awful. And by the time God got to the center and the core of that onion, I realized, number one, I'd lost my trust in man.
Mm.
Two, and most importantly, I'd lost my trust in God.
Mm.
And I knew that, but to
Mm.
have God reveal that to
My
me, I'm
God.
like, whoa. That's like
Wow.
super confronting and super painful.
Mm.
So he had to go through the journey of restoring that trust and that love and that knowing who and understanding who he is to restore me. So that went on for about 9 months where I literally just couldn't do much else other than that process, that journey of just being with God. And I mean, I was so blessed
Yeah.
that I was able to have that space and not work for that long, because most people don't have that.
Wow.
So that still happens every now and then. Like, I've had experiences. I started off, I think I mentioned this in my other podcast. I used to make a cup of tea for me and Jesus in the mornings.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I'd make this pot,
That's being practical right there.
right? Right? I'm like, come, Jesus, come,
I love that.
come, come and have a cup of tea with me. And so I'd go into my office and I'd take this teapot and our 2 cups, and I'd put it there and I'd pour us both a cup of tea. He never drank his. I don't know. Maybe he didn't like the flavor. I don't know. But
Wow.
I would do that because it was like an invitation for him to
Yeah.
come and be with me. And twice during those sessions over that 9 months, twice I had to open my eyes, because I tell you, he walked in the room.
Mm. Wow.
I had to open my eyes to see if he was physically sitting on the couch next to me, because I felt him walk in the room.
Praise
Like, I
God.
just felt it right then. I don't know if you felt that. I'm like, whoa.
Praise God. Mm.
And there was a time I was standing in my kitchen. These are things that, I don't know the entire Bible,
Mm.
but I know what I've felt. I know what I've experienced. I know the moments that God has physically shown up in my space, in my home, in my room. And I remember this one time I was standing in my kitchen and I was just pouring a drink of water, or sparkling water, whatever it was, and I was crying
Mm.
because I just felt so alone and so I don't know, a bit tired. And I was just crying out to God, and I felt Jesus come up behind me and wrap his arms around me, and we were just swaying in my kitchen. I was sobbing. I was sobbing. And then this breeze came out of nowhere, this cool breeze. It was like Holy Spirit walked through the room as well. And
Wow.
I just stood there. Like,
Ooh.
it was just amazing. And I remember another time I was lying in bed one night, and I was just crying out to God. I'm like, God, I'm so lonely.
Mm.
I feel so alone, because this is the first time I've been single my entire life.
Mm.
And it's been 2.5 years on my own.
Mm.
And this was last year, I think. And I was like, maybe the year before. I was like, God, I'm so lonely. I just want to feel your presence. And I felt him like hold my face and kiss my forehead.
Oh, wow.
girl, like these are things that you can't make this up.
That's right.
Well, I can't. Maybe someone else can. I don't have that kind of imagination. But these are little kisses
Wow.
from heaven, big kisses, big sloppy wet kisses from heaven that just make me go, my daughter, I hear you. I
Mm.
see you. I hear you. I know your heart, and I'm with you.
Mm.
And this goes to show that when we call out to him, he answers.
Yes.
He'll
Yes.
show up. I mean, I don't see Buddha doing that.
That's
I don't
right.
see Muhammad doing that.
That's
I don't
right.
see anyone else coming to bring their presence and assure me that they're there and looking after me. Only Jesus. The only name that offends anyone, Jesus. You can't help me. I can't help it. I get this fire in my belly. I'm like, don't tell me that Jesus isn't real.
That's right. That's right. Woo.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Does that answer your question?
Woo. Oh my God. You more, I mean, wow. I'm just, you know, I'm enjoying this conversation. You know, some of those experiences that you've had, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit. Wow, that's incredible.
They're
It's incredible.
supernatural. They're out of this
Supernatural. There we go. That's the word.
world. Out of this.
Supernatural encounters.
Yeah. I need to be
Beautiful.
on the Sid Roth show. I'm just kidding. That's
Oh
funny.
my
I'm,
God.
I
I
won't.
love this Angela. Like, I'm glad I get to meet this Angela, you know. Oh my
I'm so glad
goodness.
to. Thank you, Cindy.
Wow.
God's so good. I mean,
Wow.
he connected us across the oceans, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's how
so
God
wild.
does it. That's how God
Yeah.
does it, right?
He's so global. Like, he's not. I said to someone the other day, one of the where I'm doing a teaching series on my platform, on my
Mm,
podcast with a woman. It hasn't been released yet. It's about a 10-week series,
yeah.
and she has this phone number and you text it, and I said, girl, it doesn't work internationally. You need to be thinking bigger. Like, we need to be thinking global because
Yeah.
Jesus is global.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right about that. Jesus is for everyone. Is for
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Jesus is
So think
global. Oh my goodness.
kingdom is
He's
global, babe.
international.
He is international.
Ah, that's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Angela, how would you
Yes.
describe your personal? I know you went through a lot of encounters you just shared, but how would you describe your personal relationship with Jesus? I mean, who is Jesus for you?
Oh, don't you just love that question? He is the blood in my veins.
Ooh.
He's the breath in my lungs. He is my best friend.
Mm, wow.
He's the rightful king of my heart.
Mm,
And I want to be married one day.
yeah.
And if if I don't, I believe that God has someone for me, right? I really do. But if I'm wrong and he doesn't, I would be so content having Jesus as my husband for the rest of my life, because what I've experienced over the last couple of years on my own is the most security,
Mm,
the most stability, the most love, the most respect, the most adoration that I have ever experienced on this planet.
mm,
And now I know what I deserve now.
yeah.
God has taught me that. And I won't settle for anything less. Like, whoever my husband is, he's got really big feet really big shoes to
To
fill.
fit.
And Jesus will always be number one to me. He will always
Mm,
be my first love. So even when there's a husband, you know, God comes first. Sorry,
Yeah.
dude.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it needs to be the same for him,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely.
So actually, someone prophesied over me the other day and said, God's got a husband for you. And what did he say? He has a heart after God, just like David. And I went, oh
Woo!
man, because David danced undignifiably
That's
for Jesus,
right.
for God, right?
That's
And I'm like,
right.
yes, that's what I want, Lord, a husband who dances undignified for you. His clothes can fall off, that's okay. Sorry, where'd
Oh
that
my
come
God. You have a great sense of humor, Angela. I love that. You are cracking me up. Like literally, I have tears in my eyes.
Oh, I think I'm really funny, and some people don't get it, but that's okay. I still laugh at myself a lot.
I think I'm laughing too hard.
But yeah,
Ah,
Jesus is everything to me, and
mm,
I don't want to do a life without him in it. Not even a moment.
that's
Yeah. Thank you for
beautiful.
asking.
Wow, thank you
Thank you
for
for
sharing. Thank you for sharing that. And Angela, I want to give you an opportunity to, speak directly to the camera a word of encouragement because, wow, like just listening to your testimony, the things that you've been through, the lifestyle that you've left behind, you know, it's incredible, Um, and I think you could be or you are a source of hope for somebody out there, somebody who's struggling, maybe somebody who's facing the same challenges that you did at one point. What word of encouragement would you tell them? Like, what would you tell
yeah,
them?
yeah, wow. Oh, there's so many things I'd love to say, and I don't even have a Bible verse coming to mind at the moment. But what I know is this: it doesn't matter what you've been through.
Mm,
Doesn't matter how don't listen to the enemy's lies of your sin it's too deep, it's too dark, you've gone too far, God will never take you back. Don't ever listen to that, because
mm,
there is restoration available for you. There's restoration of your dignity, there's restoration of your heart, there's restoration of your mind,
mm,
and God will give you a brand new heart, a heart of flesh. He will give you a brand new mind that thinks like him. He makes you holy and pure and righteous to stand before him, to
mm.
stand, in at the throne with him, in the throne room with him.
Amen.
We can be there. So it doesn't matter how far you've walked away from God, turned your back on, maybe you've never known him before,
Mm,
but he's always there with open arms, waiting and welcoming you in to his heart. I just had the story of the prodigal son
yeah.
that took his inheritance prematurely from his dad, who was still alive, and went and spent it all on prostitutes and all of the things, this supposedly great lifestyle, and then said, I need to go back home to my father. I'll just be a slave, but I need to go back home. And the beauty of that story is that the father saw him coming,
Mm,
like from way off. So, like, the father was looking for him, the father was expecting him and waiting for him to come home. And then the father lifts up his tunic, his outfit, and that was actually the wrong thing to do back then. That back then in their culture, for
mm,
them to lift up and show their shins or their knees
mm,
was taboo. For the father to run, that was taboo in their culture. But he had to run. He
mm,
ran to his son. He had to run past the I don't know, the elders or the community leaders that were standing there, because they actually had the right to stone the son and kill him, because what he'd done was dishonoring his father, right?
mm,
So that father had to run past them all to meet and greet the son and wrap his arms around him, gave him the ring, the seal of forgiveness and acceptance for the son and then welcome him home, showing the elders or the community leaders, hey, I choose to welcome my son back in. I embrace him irrespective of what he's done. I show him forgiveness. I love him. I accept him. He's mine.
Mm.
Right? This is what the father did. And that's a sign. That's symbolism of significance of the father and how he opens his arms to us and welcomes us home, irrespective of everybody around us and what they think. It doesn't matter. The
Woo.
only thing that matters is that you are loved and he is wanting you to come back to him. Doesn't matter what you've done. He loves you as long as you're repentant and you're asking for forgiveness, and just do it. Just call out to him.
Amen.
Yeah, wow. So yeah, he loves us regardless.
Mm.
He knew you before he even formed the world. He knew you,
Yeah.
thought of you, loved you. Doesn't get any better than that in my eyes. Yeah, is that enough?
Wow.
I love that.
Angela, oh my goodness. Wow. I am so thankful to God for your life. And I mean, you have the best title, trans-
Transform.
transformational coach. I mean, you went through it. You
Yeah.
walked the walk. Um, wow. So
Yeah.
thankful to God for your
Thank
life and the things that God is doing in your life, you know. It's amazing. It's amazing. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're coming down to the end of the podcast, and wow, what an incredible conversation we had! And thank you for being here. Thank you for willing to share your powerful testimony. Wow, I had a blast. I laughed like I have tears in my eyes, literally.
Oh, that's good. That's
Wow, you're
good.
such a fun person and such a loving soul. Thank you. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Cindy. It's a really heavy topic, and if it's affected anyone, please reach out either to me or Cindy. We'd be happy to. Oh, well, sorry, I just volunteered you, Cindy.
Hey,
I,
absolutely. Why not? And
yeah,
I'll have your all your information down at the description box where people can directly reach out to you, because
yeah.
wow, you are a woman of fire. Woman on fire, woman of power. Like I always love to say that you are a woman of power. God is not done with you yet, honestly.
Oh,
Like,
come on.
wow.
Thank
Ooh,
you. Thank
I'm
you.
telling you. I'm telling you. So, thank you.